Ever feel like, I don't know, maybe we've got the whole good teaching thing a little backward?
How so?
Well, shouldn't the teacher who helps kids overcome some serious challenges be valued just as much, maybe even more, than the one with a classroom full of straight A's from, more privileged backgrounds?
It's an interesting way to look at it.
Right. And that's what we're diving into today, this whole idea of flipping the script on how we find and celebrate those amazing teachers.
Sounds like a fascinating deep dive.
It really is. So we're starting with this article, and it argues that the way we typically rank schools, well, it misses the mark.
Because it doesn't take into account the different realities kids bring to the classroom.
Exactly.
Yeah, that makes sense. So instead of focusing on those overall school rankings, what if we rank teachers based on, like how much their students need that extra support?
And how well they rise to those challenges.
Right. Recognizing the commitment, the creativity it takes to really reach those students.
It's kind of like, we already do that with sports coaches, don't we?
How do you mean?
Well, think about it. The coach who takes a team with almost no funding, kids who've never even played together, and they make it to the championship. We see that as a bigger deal than coaching the team that was expected to win all along.
Because they've helped those players overcome so much more.
Exactly. So why not apply that same thinking to teachers?
Right. Makes you wonder why we haven't been.
So instead of asking what's the best school, we start asking who are the teachers who help students overcome the odds and reach their full potential.
Regardless of their background, their circumstances.
Totally. Acknowledging that teaching a child who's experiencing homelessness or maybe dealing with learning differences, that's a whole different ballgame.
And those teachers deserve to be celebrated.
Absolutely. And that's where this idea of the teacher draft comes in. And this is where it gets really interesting.
Teacher draft. Like fantasy football, but for education.
You got it. Okay, so instead of those awkward open houses with the stale cookies and the PowerPoints,
Yeah.
we're talking about parents getting to really see what a teacher's all about.
That's the idea. Like imagine
Wow.
teacher portfolios, but not just, here are my credentials, but this is how I teach, this is what I'm passionate about, and this is how I connect with kids.
So here's how I helped a student who learns differently not just get by, but actually excel.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not just about academics either, right? Like the article specifically mentions this thing called emotional intelligence and how important that would be to parents in this draft.
Because every parent wants a teacher who gets their kid, right? Not just teaches the subject, but really sees them as a person.
Exactly.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, but how would this whole draft thing even work? Would it just be like the wealthy families get first pick?
Well, that's where it gets even more interesting. The article actually talks about this teacher draft happening in a world without those financial barriers,
So every family, rich or poor, gets the same chance to find the best teacher for their kid.
Precisely. No more stressing over school zones or feeling like you're priced out of a good education.
Okay, wow. That's a game changer. Even if it is, a pretty radical concept.
It is, but it makes you think.
For sure. So let's say, hypothetically speaking, this teacher draft is a go. What makes a teacher a top pick? Like, what are parents looking for?
Well, the article talks a lot about this idea of personalized attention,
So it's not just being good at teaching in general, but being able to adapt to how each student learns best.
Exactly. Because we all know a one-size-fits-all approach just doesn't cut it when it comes to education. Every student is unique, and they need a learning experience that reflects that, right?
Makes total sense.
Uh-huh.
What else? What other qualities are we drafting for here?
Well, adaptability is huge, especially these days. Parents would want a teacher who's flexible, who can think on their feet, because let's face it, things change. Kids aren't robots, classrooms aren't predictable, and sometimes you've got to be able to just roll with it, right?
I can see that, especially if you've got a classroom with a mix of learning styles and needs.
Yeah.
You don't want someone who's stuck in their ways. So we've got personalized attention, adaptability. What else are we looking for in our star teacher draft pick?
Well, this might seem obvious, but patience. And I'm not just talking about, waiting for the kids to quiet down. I'm talking about real, genuine patience with the learning process itself.
Which isn't always easy, especially for kids who learn or process things differently.
Right. It's about creating that space where it's okay to make mistakes, to not get it right away, to struggle a bit, and knowing that your teacher is right there with you every step of the way.
Compassion goes a long way. Okay, so we've got personalized attention, adaptability, patience, compassion. It's becoming pretty clear that these hypothetical parents They're looking for a lot more than just someone who can, teach to the test.
Oh, absolutely. They want someone who sees the whole picture.
And the article actually gives this great example of a teacher who embodies all of these qualities, Mrs. Thompson.
Oh, yeah, Miss Thompson. So the article makes it clear she might not be, like, internet famous or winning any national teaching awards, but
But she gets results.
yeah. And more importantly, she gets results with students who often get overlooked, The article explains that parents rave about her work with students who have ADHD.
Because she understands their needs, she knows how to reach them in a way that other teachers maybe haven't been able to.
Exactly. And that kind of personalized experience, that's invaluable to those parents.
It's like they're thinking, my child is unique, they learn differently, and Miss Thompson gets that.
Precisely. And that, I think, is what would make someone like Miss Thompson a top draft pick in this kind of system.
It makes you think about how we're evaluating and rewarding teachers right now, doesn't it? Like, maybe we're missing some of the most important things. Okay, so we've been talking about this teacher draft and how it could shake things up. But is it even possible in the real world?
That's the big question, right? I mean, it's a thought experiment for a reason. There are so many logistical things to figure out, not to mention, the whole philosophical debate.
Yeah, like how do you even begin to measure how much support a student needs? Life isn't a standardized test.
Exactly. It's way more complicated than just numbers on a page. Plus, what about the teachers themselves? In this system, would they even get a say in where they end up?
That's a really good point. Teachers have their own passions, their own teaching styles, the types of students they connect with best. We can't just ignore that.
Exactly. And while we're at it, let's not forget about what the students want. Do they get any say in this teacher draft?
Ideally, you'd want to find a teacher who's a good fit for everyone involved, right? But how do you actually make that happen?
It's tricky, and we're just scratching the surface here. Then there's the whole issue of potential bias,
Right.
Making sure the draft itself is fair. It gets really complicated really quickly.
Sounds like a logistical nightmare.
Anyway.
But even if this teacher draft never actually happens, and hey, maybe it will someday, who knows? But even if it's just an idea, it forces us to ask some tough questions about how we define good teaching.
For sure. Like, are we giving enough credit to the teachers who are already doing amazing things, especially for those students who need them the most? The ones facing some real challenges.
It's easy to get caught up in the test scores and the rankings and all that, but maybe we're missing the bigger picture here.
Absolutely, because at the end of the day, education, it's about more than just numbers. It's about helping a child grow, not just academically, but as a person.
Right. It's about sparking a love of learning.
Exactly. It's about equipping them for life, not just a test.
This whole conversation has got me thinking. If I was a teacher getting ready for this teacher draft, what stories would I share? What kind of legacy would I want to leave behind?
That's a really interesting question. What are we passionate about as educators? What do we bring to the table? And I think the answer, it goes way beyond curriculum and test scores.
It's about those moments of connection, those small victories that might not make the headlines, but they stay with you.
Yeah, like helping a shy student find their voice. Or showing a struggling learner that they can achieve anything they set their mind to.
So maybe the real power of this teacher draft idea, whether it ever becomes reality or not, is that it starts a conversation.
Yeah.
Gets us thinking about what truly matters in education.
I love that. It's about recognizing the amazing work that teachers are already doing every single day
Right.
and making sure they have the support they need to be the best they can be.
Because when it comes down to it, education, it's about people. It's about those connections we make, the support we give each other, the potential we unlock. And that's worth fighting for, teacher draft or not.